welcome you to another installment into the Invest Podcast. I'm your host, John Ross. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Remember to follow me on Instagram and all things invest with three T's. All things invest with three T's. Now, my next guest that I have a pleasure of speaking with is a fellow podcaster like myself. She is a coach to entrepreneurs and professionals, many of them. The woman is a speaker. She's extremely inspirational. She's also a recovering people pleaser. I would like
hmm
to welcome Juli Wenger to the Invest Podcast. Julie, how are you? Did I get your last name right?
You nailed it.
Okay, cool.
Nailed it. Yeah.
Uh,
I'm
so,
happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
okay, wow. So recovering people pleaser.
Yeah.
Wow. So we'll get to that in a second. So what I always start this show off, and I always ask my guests to kind of talk about where they're at right now and where they were born. Where are you from, Julie?
Yeah. So I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I was
Where
born in a
at?
place called Saskatoon, Saskatchewan,
Oh
which
wait.
sometimes I call like Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. It's kind of the middle of the prairies here in Canada and
Okay.
small city. So yeah,
Oh, so you're okay. You're a Canadian.
I am.
Okay, nice. So let's talk prior before we go into what you're doing right now. So your
Mhm.
prior field, what did you do prior before you got into podcasting, before you got into coaching? What were you doing prior?
So I spent 10 years in real estate and a couple other jobs after university before that, but I spent 10 years building a business, building what I now call success by other people's standards.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a $500,000 business a year. I had a team. I had everything that people are quote unquote supposed to want
Mm-hmm.
and all of the things that you should go build.
Mm-hmm.
And I hit a wall
Mm-hmm.
of this can't be it. I've done the things, I've built the things, I'm really good at it, but it's not filling my soul.
Yeah, so I had a guy on maybe about 2 months ago, and he actually created Self Love Institute, and he kind of had a very similar story. He was doing really well in the entertainment business. He got up into the high six figures, and he did all the things that pretty much they say we should do, and that will make us happy. And he had the same issue. So what I've really been believing, what I've been believing for a really long time is most people don't really know what true happiness is. They don't really go after it because we have the foundation. They pretty much set it for us of what, hey, you go do this, you go do that. That's what you need to do. And everybody kind of just follows the same tune. Does that sound about right, Julie?
Yeah, and especially in North America as a whole, right? There's definitely some very firm similarities between Canadian culture and American
Yeah.
culture. And it's very much your story is pre written. So you're going to go check all these boxes for this is what I'm supposed to do. And then we miss the point on what I consider to be two main things. And this is what I had to grow through was who the F am I?
Who are
Outside
you?
of all these roles and all these titles and assignments and things that I am pulling value from and trying to find my enoughness in, if I take all that stuff away, then who am I? What's at the core of me? What's left? And then I had to contend with, once I started to get clarity on the who am I piece, what am I here for? What's my story? What's my purpose? What's my calling? What is the thing that I have been put on this earth for
Mm-hmm.
so that I can go build that thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is never convenient. I'm just
Yes.
going to put that out there. Living your purpose and your calling is going to cost you something.
Oh, definitely for sure. Yeah, I had another coach on a while back, and she had asked me, do I know what are the two most important days of your life? And one was when you're born. The second one, I said when my kids were born. She actually said the second one is when you actually wake up and you realize what's your purpose and why you're actually here.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually the second most important day of your life, besides you actually being born. So you actually kind of hit on that. So 10 years into your real estate journey, making all this money, I'm pretty sure people told you you're kind of crazy for not being happy. How long into your career in real estate you start to realize is this it? Maybe there's something else. You had all the money, you probably went on vacation, did all this stuff, and you're like, maybe one more trip will do it. And you just come, how far along were you into your career?
That, I mean, I questioned early on because I kind of fell into real estate.
Okay.
It wasn't ever my idea. It wasn't the thing I wanted to do when I grew up. I had an interior design degree essentially, and I followed my husband's job around for a while, and then we landed back here in Edmonton, and I was like, what am I going to do? He said, well, you like people and you like houses. Maybe you should go into real estate. And my initial response was, F no. Like, that's not what I want to do with my life. But I didn't know what else to do because, just to circle back, I didn't know who I was and I didn't know what I was here for. So I kind of fell into this career of sales, which for me at that time was like, ugh, gross, right? Pushy, smarmy kind of associations. And I figured out how to build that business in a way that very much reflected me and what I valued. So I made it better and I thought it's what I wanted, which is what happens. We convince ourselves because our ego's at play, right? That little subconscious 4-year-old that runs around behind the scenes, pulling on all these stories and trying to keep us the same. So I convinced myself this must be what I want. And what else could I even do? What else am I even qualified for? So when I hit that 9-10 year mark and I essentially hit a wall, the business is growing. Everyone's asking me, how am I doing it? Can you teach me? And nobody knew. This was the thing, right? People didn't tell me I was crazy because I wasn't grateful, because I wasn't going to tell them. I was going to keep that mask up of happy, bubbly, everything's fine. I'll figure it out. But internally, it was a mess. So like my husband knew and my coach knew and that kind of stuff, because I'd started to level into some coaching, and I just hit this wall of, I can't keep doing this like this. This isn't what I want. But the challenge with focusing on what we don't want is we create more of it. So I had to really start to flip the script. Okay, well then what is it I do want? What's the opposite of I don't want to work all my evenings and weekends? What's the opposite? I don't want clients to call and my whole body to cringe because it's another client. And this is where the people pleasing came in too, is that's by nature one of my ego structure's defense mechanisms. And I'm very conscious of, am I liked? Am I, measuring up in relationship with people? Am I helpful enough? And I was pulling a lot of my value from there. So I had attracted people into my business as clients that were really needy and that were takers. And so when I'm hitting this wall and burning myself out, part of the challenge is my tank is completely drained.
Oh my gosh.
I've got nothing left, right? Because here I am giving for years and trying to prove my value for years and overachiever mode for years. Like the word hustle and me do not go together anymore, but that was essentially my jam, right? Yeah. And so I just hit a wall. I was like, I can't do this. And it was either fix it or find something else. That was essentially the breaking point.
Yeah. So like, I've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to some other coaches, some other entrepreneurs, and they say the same thing, like trying to actually go out there and do what you're meant to do. It isn't easy because, like you said, sometimes it goes against the very fabric of what's pretty much instilled in our society of what it is that we are supposed to do. And it's kind of hard because when we are going through that, because we have the house, we have the boat, we have the 6-figure job, everything's good, we got cute kids and all this stuff. It's like, wow, you have a great life and you're really,
we have this thing to maintain too.
Yeah. So it's really hard, and you have to kind of find a coach or find people like-minded you, because the average person, they're not going to understand, because we measure happiness by stuff, right?
Yeah.
By status. It's pretty much what it's all about. They have the house, the cars, and everything like that. And it's like, wow. So one day you just decided to just take that leap and just to take that jump and just to go for it, right?
I wish. It was a process, right? Yeah, it's this process of learning, of coming back to myself. And in the midst of that process, because here's where I landed, is that who I am is not realtor, it's not mom, it's not wife, it's not any of those roles and titles. My core, or what I like to call my essence, is kind of characteristics, right? Love, joy, strength, light, and grace. That's me at my core. And when I got that clarity, I started to be able to filter that down into, okay, then with that and with what I know about my purpose and getting more clear on my purpose, which is all about helping people find their fire and trust themselves and live their purpose so they can find fulfillment, create impact. Then those things blended together gave me this clarity of, is real estate really well aligned with that? Is that where I want to choose to put my time and my energy? And the answer is no. So then began the transition of, okay, then what? And I actually had a coach. I'd hired a new coach at the time, and she called me on it first. She's like, Juli, you're a coach. I was like, yeah, I don't know. And then I kind of sat with it, and as more and more layers came off and more clarity came, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is actually really well aligned. That it's not that I am a coach as being my identity, or that even being a coach is my calling, but it's the most well-aligned fit with what I know my calling to be. And from that point, then things started to move really quickly. And then we started to see what I call the hold your nose and jump moments of, okay, I'm going to show up and I'm going to announce to the world that I'm stepping into coaching. I'm going to jump out of my real estate business. It was something I had to just walk away from and shut it down. And that was a big deal, right? Because there's paychecks and there's all of this expectation I have on myself of pulling my own weight at home. And,
That right there took some guts and it took some grit. And I probably would say maybe 98, 99% of people, they just wouldn't take that leap because I know with us as people, we're security and we're comfort seeking. So we get that security, we get that comfort, even though we might have these great ideas in our head about things we want to do. Oh, I want a career change. I want to do that. But, I got this money coming in every 2 weeks and it's pretty good.
Right.
I don't want to walk away from it, but I don't really want to do this. I'm not happy doing it for the next maybe 15 to 20 years, but those checks are coming in. So and of course we got to pay the bills, but what would your advice be to, somebody that has a goal, has a dream, has a passion, they want to chase it. Maybe they can't quit their day job right now because again, we got to pay the bills. But what would your advice be to them to say hey, maybe it's okay to do that? Because it seems I don't know. One thing I know, and one thing they never taught us in school, they taught us world history, taught us mathematics, but they never really taught us about chase your happiness. They never really said anything about that. It's all about do this, do that, but it was never nothing about do what feels right to you. And it seems like many people don't really do what feels right. They just kind of do what they see their next person doing. So what would your advice be?
I think the thing that pulls us through when we start to get that sense of, this isn't all there is for me, there's something more for me, and they start to get some clarity on the who am I and what am I here for front, then they can see, okay, here's my next up level. Here's a next step. Here's a possibility. Here's what life could look like. And then we get all hung up with our ego, right? Then we get all hung up with it saying, no, I want you to stay here because here is safe and here is certain and here is comfortable and here I can be in control. Because if you go changing, I don't know what's over there. I have no frame of reference for that. So the thing for me that I had to get really clear on was that it wasn't just about me and my comfort and my security. It was about all of the people who I was here to create an impact with and for. And when I got context on that, that's when I jumped out of the business. Because I had my resistance too of, I'll do both. And I'm building both. And then COVID happens and I pivot a whole bunch of energy into the coaching business and it starts to take off. And, but I'm fractured and I'm in two spaces and I'm feeling the call of go do this thing. And I'm going, maybe I need to sell a couple more houses first. Exactly that paycheck thing you're talking about. Right. Or I feel the call to do the podcast. I'm going, I can't until I let go of this other thing. So the real estate business became like this anchor to my old life that I had to let go of. And it had to be about more than just me. It had to be about envisioning all of the people that I had the capacity and the potential to support, and who I could shake a tree for so they, snap out of it and wake up and go do something that matters with their life.
Right.
And then it started to go.
Got you. So I see now, of course, you help a lot of entrepreneurs. You help a lot of business professionals, and as a coach,
Mm-hmm.
so again, the best coach is someone who can really sympathize with these people as far as like they've been in you've been in those shoes. Those are pretty
Yeah.
much the best coaches. You can go take classes, whatever the crap, and learn about all this stuff. But if you haven't like been in these people's shoes, you haven't been through any of those types of scenarios, you're not really going to be all that great of a coach. You need experience. You need those kind of life journeys to really be a great coach. I mean, how does it feel now to be doing something that you were truly put here to do? And what you do, Julie, it changes and it impacts lives. That's truly amazing because a
Yeah.
lot of us get up, a lot of people get up, and of course they get up and they pay the bills, but getting up and doing what makes you feel fulfilled at the end of the day when you're brushing your teeth and you're going to sleep and you're like, I enjoy this, and I'm waking up in the morning and I'm like, I'm working, but I like it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
It's a total life changer. I mean, I see these massive transformations for people that I can hardly put into words, right? Complete life, all around holistic shifts. And for me, there's 3 words that have been very prominent lately: fired up, fulfilled, and free, because that's really what's on the other side of this work. That's what I've been finding, with my continual up levels, because we're never there. There's no proverbial there that we get to and then we're done our work. I mean, I'm still actively doing my work. I'm working with coaches, and I have my whole dream team of people. And at the same time, I see for so many people, they're in that overwhelm space and they're in that fear space and they're in that ego is running the show space. And when they can step out of that and they take their power back, they find this freedom. And honestly, living our calling, while it's not convenient, there is also an abundance that shows up. And it might take a little while, but the abundance, here's where we get tripped up on abundance, is it's not just money. Now, there are things that I am so grateful for in terms of capacity to connect with my kids and my husband that I did not have when I was in real estate,
Okay.
that are worth more than money to me. And I have a 6-figure business. It's not the same level that the old business is at. It also doesn't have the same kind of cost structure the old business had, which is really nice. And there is really incredible potential in that space for abundance. But in terms of fulfillment and this inner calm and my own sense of enoughness and being able to show up in the spaces that really matter for me, it has been a total game changer, not just for clients, but for my life too.
So I feel like some of the things or some of the jobs or some of the skills that we may have had that we used prior in our life or prior in our career, we might not always notice it, but sometimes they help us out a little bit later. Like me, when I was younger, I used to sell timeshares. I had like a sell job, right? But I didn't really understand it. Then I got into fitness. I was working with clients and I became a nutritionist. And then I was like, and I noticed I was pretty good at my words and my communication and stuff like that. And I was like, well, I think, selling timeshares and having to talk to these people, and timeshares was kind of hard. I think it kind of helped me out later. So being in real estate and you're talking to a lot of people, you're really moving and shaking, even though it's not quite the same as coaching, that definitely probably helped with some of your great communication skills, right? You got to be a great communicator to have a 6-figure at real estate business. I know some people that have gotten into real estate and they didn't really make any money.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of those people. Everything's built me. And it's so funny because I look back at everything from university education to the kinds of jobs I held before real estate, which are all kind of shorter term, post-university jumps. And then all of the capacity building that I was doing for essentially a decade. in how do I lead people, in how do I equip people for success, in essentially coaching clients through major life transitions, right? That's what the client journey was very much based in for us, was how am I helping guide people through major changes? And guess what I'm doing now? A lot of the time is I'm guiding people through major changes.
Yeah.
So there have been some skill sets that I've been able to refine because I like, coach training and making sure that there's some credibility there. And I've done that because I didn't want to just slap coach on the door and then,
Right.
That's the end of that. And at the same time, there's a lot of that capacity that was already there. Or when we look at the speaking and the being on stage, which is like my second home and it just fires me up, I look at things like singing from stage at church when I was younger, or I look at things like being on camera all the time, because every home we sold, we would make videos for, and I'd be on camera and I'd have a mic and we'd just, one take and done. As things settled out, we got more comfortable. So there's business capacity, there's client interaction capacity, there's marketing capacity, there's social media knowledge. There's all of these pieces that fit together. And then even within our personal growth journeys, right? If we're in coaching, or I'm a total Enneagram nerd, and that was a big piece of my growth journey. Now that's something that I can leverage for clients, right? And understanding the psychology and that framework. So yeah, everything builds us.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit before we go. Let's talk a little bit about your podcast. I mean, what's your podcast? Let's tell them about that.
So we run a podcast called Becoming Ourselves. And I love this theme because it's really that journey back to who we are at our core, which is so much of the work that I'm doing. And when we've run summits, we've called it that too. So the podcast is a blend of solo episodes that are very much inspired by my journey or issues and challenges I see continually coming up with clients, because those themes always present for a reason. And then really interesting conversations with people from all sorts of places who have had either their own hold their nose and jump moments of major transition, or they have a really interesting journey in their becoming of who they are. So there's something about the resonance of our stories with other people's stories that's really powerful. And one of the things I've loved about the podcast is that I'll get people who will message me. Sometimes they'll say, hey, I listened to this episode and it totally gave me permission to go and change something in my life. Oh. Or I saw myself in that person's story, and if they can do it, I can do it. Yeah. Or I listened to the one about how you jumped out of your business and shut it down. And if you can do that, then I can quit this job I hate and go find something better. I can fire the clients that are soul sucking because now I understand what an energy vampire is and how to set a boundary. So there's all this potential for us to reach and impact people that we may never work with in a one-on-one capacity. And I love podcasting for that.
What are some of the platforms my listeners can find you? Are you on Apple and Spotify?
We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on Google. We're pretty much everywhere that Buzzsprout feeds out to. So, or there's links to the podcast page on my Insta bio, so they can check me out there at Juli Wenger.
Ourselves with Juli Wenger. You guys definitely got to check it out. So Juli, before we go, I want to touch on it really quick before we go. We've already talked about it a little bit. So America, where we're from, it says America is about the pursuit of happiness, but it seems like America, my country, does not really want anybody to pursue their true happiness. So before we go, let's talk really quickly about, you got one life to live. Why is it important to really chase your happiness for you? Because people always, John, why are you doing this? John, why are you doing that? John, you're doing this. Johnny, what you starting a business? Like, let me chase my happiness. And you go over there and you do yours. You do your thing. But why is it so important that people do it? Because, you live and you die. We all got an expiration date, and none of us are getting out of here alive. So, I mean, live your best life and do what makes you happy, right?
When we have joy and we have fulfillment, we shine brighter, and it gives other people to find joy and fulfillment. And then the world becomes a more compassionate and equitable and loving and incredible place to be. So it's a, fulfillment of ourselves, because I don't believe that we're put here to be miserable and stuck in some box our whole life. And all of the people around us are impacted by us finding that thing that really brings us joy and brings us happiness.
Definitely. So, Julie, we know about the podcast. If any of my guests listening want to get in touch, they might want some coaching, they might want a session, a consultation. Contact information for you, Julie.
Yeah, so at Juli Wenger, it's Juli on Instagram, or juliwenger.com. We've got links for free clarity calls. If anyone wants to jump on and just discover more about where are they at, where are they going, what do they need for support, I am down for that all the time. And they can definitely check out the podcast.
Julia, I will tell you that I believe a lot of people definitely need that, and they definitely would benefit from a call, a chat with you. It's been an honor and privilege. Thank you. I'm sure my listeners are going to get a lot out of this episode. I always like talking to people that invest in themselves and people that invest in others. That's pretty much what this show is all about. And I want to thank you again for coming on the podcast, Julie. You take care, and we'll talk again soon. Juli Wenger on the Invest Podcast. See you guys next time. Enjoy the rest of your day, Julie.
All right.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you.